So, are you familiar with the term sports recruiting? Maybe? Okay. Recruiting, regardless of the industry or field, really comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that's exposure. So let's define exposure for a minute. It's to define visibility or to make something visible. So I am very familiar with sports recruiting because I went through the process myself. I actually started a company that uses the power of video to make sports recruiting better for athletes. So at the age of 4, I started playing organized sports. The sport happened to be soccer, and I'm not quite sure if you've ever seen a small child's soccer game, but it looked a little something like this. You have a cluster of kids chasing the ball up and down the field like a swarm of bees. So when I was younger, in my oversized jersey, I would sit back and wait for the ball to kick out. So I would break away and score a bunch of goals. Now looking back at that experience, I realized that I looked at the game completely differently than everybody else did on the field. So fast forward, I played every sport they had to offer. I played softball, basketball, track and field, volleyball, you name it, I played it. Until about the end of my sophomore year, I realized I wanted to play basketball in college. But going into my junior year, I was behind. I needed to get seen by college coaches to actually do that. So I learned a lot going through that process, and I wanted to share the basics of what I learned. So the first thing I learned was being timely. I was too late. I had literally 2 years to get seen by college coaches to get recruited. The second thing I learned is networking. So like anything else, there's a network. So basically it's about who you know, and it's about the connections you have. I went to a high school that college coaches didn't visit frequently, so I had no connections and I really had to start from scratch. And the third thing is communication. So no one knew who I was. I was a junior, off the radar, and I needed to get my name out there. So I packaged up a bunch of VHS tapes and sent them off to dozens of college coaches of programs I was interested in playing for. And the process actually worked. I was recruited to play Division I basketball in Bowling Green State University, but I was actually lucky. I had parents that took me around and traveled with me to summer leagues and paid for these summer exposure camps. Now these camps cost hundreds of dollars an event. So because I had those reps and I had exposure, I got recruited. So if fast forward, I actually played 4 years at Bowling Green, and I attempted to play overseas basketball as well professionally. And I realized that the sports recruiting process worked the same way it did when I was in high school. So I decided to do something about it. I wanted to look at the game and look at sports recruiting completely differently than everybody else did. So I started Take Play. Take Play levels the playing field and puts the spotlight on what really matters. It's not about the money, it's not about the connections, it's about talent. There are thousands of high school athletes around the country that no one really knows about. They have the talent, but why aren't they getting recruited? Well, using Take Play, all they need to do is upload a video and get that instant exposure that they need. Now for college coaches, it's about streamlining the process, so making everything digital. And what used to take hours of sifting through DVDs, screening, evaluating players now takes minutes by making everything digital and working smarter, not harder. So now you know the basics about recruiting, right? You know the 3 things. You know that it's about communication, network, and being timely. But most importantly, it comes down to one thing and one thing only: sports recruiting or just recruiting, and that's exposure. Thank you.